One day, a young man was at his office finishing up his work, about to leave with his coworkers. But he told them, "No, I'll stay a bit longer. I still have some work left, and anyway, there's no one waiting for me at home if I go back." He stayed for a while, finishing what he had to do, then gathered his things and headed out from work, ready to go home. But while on his way, a car hit him, and the young man died. Suddenly, he found himself in another world, reborn as an infant. An old man was holding him, and it was pouring rain. Years passed, and the boy grew up, now named Shin. The old man who held him that day had adopted him as his grandson. Shin lived with his grandfather in the forest, hunting wild animals using magic, which was a natural thing in this world, to provide food. Of course, Shin remembered all his memories from his past life, but couldn't recall exactly how he died. Shin returned to his grandfather at home, who welcomed him and asked, "How was your hunting trip?" We learn that the grandfather's name is Merlin. Shin smiled, opened his dimensional bag, and pulled out all the animals he had hunted. The grandfather asked, "You used wind arrows to hunt them, didn't you?" Shin replied, "Yeah, isn't that the best for hunting?" We learn from Shin that Grandpa Merlin is very skilled and knowledgeable in magic. Later, the grandfather wanted to see how Shin handled fire magic, so he asked him to light the woodpile nearby. Shin excitedly ignited it quickly, and the grandfather was astonished by Shin's remarkable magic abilities. At that moment, Shin's grandmother, Mulita, and the family friend, Michelle, arrived. The grandfather told Shin he shouldn't rely only on magic, but must also learn combat skills, which excited Shin even more. At that moment, the grandmother found out Shin had gone hunting alone and scolded him for going on such a dangerous adventure by himself. Shin replied, "There was nothing dangerous at all in the hunt, and I used the magical tools we made together." The grandmother, unable to respond, said, "Where in the world does an 8-year-old go hunting alone?" Shin innocently replied, "Here, I guess." The grandmother got more annoyed and called him an idiot. The grandfather told her to calm down, reminding her that she knew how talented Shin was with magic and how the forest was like a backyard to him. Michelle was also amazed at Shin's power and told him, "From now on, I'll intensify your combat training." Shin pouted and said, "Oh, please don't." They all laughed at him. 2 years later, Shin and his grandfather walked in the forest, and the grandfather took Shin to hunt cursed beasts. He told him it was time, now that he was 10, to try hunting cursed beasts. He explained to Shin about the cursed beasts and how even humans could be transformed by cursed energy. Shin said, "Yeah, I know that," since his grandfather had told him the story of the cursed human who almost destroyed humanity until the grandfather defeated the monster and saved the village. To this day, his grandfather is considered a hero of mankind. The grandfather began Shin's first lesson, teaching him to search for the cursed beasts using magic. He explained that this was done by gently spreading his magical energy around him, expanding it widely, a magic called search magic. As soon as a strange energy entered his range, he'd know it was the cursed energy of a cursed beast. This magic, of course, required great control over magical energy. Just as the grandfather finished explaining, Shin naturally used the magic, and as usual, the grandfather was amazed. Shin could sense all the living creatures in the forest and soon detected cursed energy. The grandfather confirmed it was the cursed magic of a cursed beast. Shin and the grandfather quickly headed toward the beast, which turned out to be a giant bear. Shin dashed toward the beast and, with one swift move, sliced off its head, leaving the grandfather stunned by what he had just witnessed. Shin then asked his grandfather what he thought of his performance. The grandfather told him he did it perfectly, which made Shin very happy that he had successfully defeated the beast. The grandfather then asked Shin about the type of magic he had used on his sword during the battle. Shin hesitated because he had actually invented a new magical spell. That evening, the grandfather told the grandmother and Michelle that Shin had taken down a cursed bear with just one powerful strike, without any help. Everyone was, as usual, amazed by Shin's incredible power. The grandmother said Shin was exceptional in both magic and combat, and even his combat talent matched Michelle's. They continued talking about how much they all loved Shin. The next morning, after finishing his training with Michelle, Shin's grandfather asked, "Did you finish today's training?" Shin replied, "Michelle was extra tough on me today." The grandfather laughed and said, "And yet, you're still keeping up with him. But anyway, I need to talk to you about something." He took Shin to a quiet, beautiful spot in the forest and told him he wasn't his real grandfather, that he had found him as a baby in the forest. Shin understood the situation and wasn't upset at all. Shin then asked his grandfather if the cursed bear he had killed was the one that destroyed his parents' village. The grandfather was surprised, and Shin smiled, saying that if it was the bear that did it, then he had avenged his parents. Shin then asked about his parents and where they were from. The grandfather told him, unfortunately, he knew nothing about them, as they were brutally wiped out. The grandfather was was even more surprised and asked, "You've accepted all this so easily?" Shin replied, "Yeah, they were my parents, but I don't remember them at all. Besides, I have you, Grandpa." The grandfather was deeply moved by Shin's words and cried with joy. 5 years later, many guests were at Shin and his grandfather's house, celebrating that Shin had turned 15 and was now considered an adult in their world. The grandmother was emotional, seeing her grandson, who was once a baby, now grown up. Uncle Dis asked Shin, "What are you planning to do now that you're all grown up?" Shin was puzzled and asked, "What do you mean?" Uncle Dis explained, "You're now a fully grown man. What's your goal in life?" Shin replied, "The first thing I want to do is leave the forest and visit the nearby town. After that, we'll see what happens." Siegfried and Christina suggested that since he'd learned combat from Michelle, he could join the royal force or become a cursed beast hunter. Shin was confused and asked, "What's a cursed beast hunter?" A merchant named Tom explained, "There's a group known as cursed beast hunters. They get a lot of rewards for hunting down these evil beasts." Siegfried added, "What? This is your first time hearing all of this?" Shin responded, "Yeah, believe it or not." Siegfried said, "You could also be a magical tool merchant by enchanting items. Plus, you're handsome, so you'd become famous in town instantly." Shin laughed and said, "Maybe I should think about making money now that I'm an adult responsible for myself." Tom was shocked and asked Shin, "Wait, you've never been to the market?" Shin replied, "Nope, I don't know anything about financial transactions." Everyone was stunned, and the grandmother asked the grandfather, "You really didn't teach him any of this?" The grandfather replied, "Oops, I must have forgotten." The grandmother scolded him as usual, and then Shin takes everyone to a distant wilderness training ground to show them his magical abilities. They travel from the house to the area via a magic gate, which works just like instant teleportation. This magic is Shin's invention, and everyone is amazed at his magical powers, which could potentially cause conflicts between nations. Next, Shin demonstrates his offensive magic that he had previously shown to his grandfather. Everyone is shocked because he nearly destroyed the entire area with a single attack, and his grandmother scolds him for such a dangerous move, yelling at his grandfather too. After that, they return home and talk about how strong and talented Shin is, and how his abilities could cause a power struggle between nations. Then Uncle Dis suggests that Shin joins the magical academy in their country. Shin is confused and asks, "Your country? Wait, who are you? Aren't you just Uncle Dis?" That's when Uncle Dis reveals his identity to Shin, as do the others. Shin is shocked to learn that Dis is the king of the country, and Chris and Siegfried are royal magicians accompanying King Dis, essentially royal guards, and Michelle is the retired commander of the Knight's Guard. Shin is stunned to discover that all his relatives are very important people in the country. After that, they agree that Shin will join the academy. They travel to the town, and when they arrive, the guard asks for their identification. He realizes they are the great heroes and their grandson, becoming nervous and amazed. The whole town is happy, eager to meet Shin's grandfather and grandmother. Next, they reach the mansion in the town, and Shin is surprised by how huge and grand it is, filled with servants who introduce themselves to the family. Shin is excited to explore the town, so he goes out, buys an apple, and eats it during his tour. He then encounters a group of monster hunters harassing 2 girls his age on the road. Shin steps in, easily handling the group, and the 2 girls thank him greatly for saving them. Shin then goes with the girls to a cafe on the main street. They thank him again for rescuing them from the dangerous situation, and they introduce themselves. The first girl is Maria, and the second is Cecily. Maria, feeling frustrated, says, "If we were just better at magic, we could have easily beaten those thugs ourselves." Shin is puzzled and asks, "Are you students at the magic school?" Maria replies that they will be if they pass the entrance exam next month. Shin tells them that he will also take the entrance exam at the magical academy. Maria is surprised and says, "With all the combat skills you've got, you want to become a magician?" Cecily adds, "We thought you were training to be a knight." Maria then mentions that the hero and heroine have come to town with their grandson, and they're lucky to be in the academy with him this year. Shin doesn't know what to say and just laughs, keeping quiet about being the grandson. He bids them goodbye and leaves. The day of the entrance exam arrives, and Shin is standing in front of the name list to see where he'll be. A snobbish boy comes up and says, "Get out of my way, you trash," but Shin ignores him, not paying attention. Then the boy puts his hand on Shin's shoulder, and Shin quickly knocks him to the ground, saying, "Who grabs someone like that out of nowhere?" The boy insults Shin, saying that he's the son of a count and a noble of the country, and says, "Don't you know who I am? I'm Kurt von Ritzberg." Shin calmly replies, "Nice to meet you. I'm Shin." Everyone at the academy laughs at Kurt, which makes him angrier. He yells, "I'm the count's heir, you idiot," and insults Shin again. At that moment, the prince arrives, resolves the situation, and sends Kurt away. Shin doesn't know who this is until the prince introduces himself as August von Earlscheid. Shin puts the pieces together and realizes August is the prince and the son of Uncle Dis, the king. Shin asks, so that means we're cousins, right? August laughs and says, yes, exactly. Everyone at the academy is surprised by how casually Shin talks to Prince August. Then the exams begin. After the written test, it's time for the practical magic exam. The supervising instructor asks the students to cast their magic at the targets. The students' spells are weak, but they're proud of themselves, and Shin is confused by how they're satisfied with such lackluster magic. When it's Shin's turn, the instructor tells him the king has instructed that he control his power as much as possible. Shin gets nervous and thinks, what exactly did Uncle Dis tell them about me? He agrees and casts his signature blue flames, destroying the target and the wall behind it. The instructor and students are stunned by Shin's power. That evening, the teachers discuss the test results, noting how incredibly strong Shin is. Naturally, he gets the highest score of the year. The next day, the students go to collect their uniforms and magical tools. The supervisor tells Shin that he'll be giving the speech as the top student. Shin is nervous and protests, saying, how can I give the speech when Prince August is here? He tries to get out of it, but it's too late. Meanwhile, Cecily and Maria watch August and Shin interacting so casually, and they wonder who Shin really is. That night, Kurt seethes with jealousy as he's placed in Class A while Shin is in Class S, the top of the year. At the same time, Shin works on enchanting his uniform with stronger spells. He's thrilled when it works and his magic improves the uniform. His grandmother walks in and is shocked by what he's done. The next day, his grandparents take him to the academy. It's the day of the entrance ceremony, and his grandmother reminds him not to tell anyone about what he did to his uniform. Shin agrees. At that moment, everyone notices the arrival of the hero and heroine at the academy and rushes to greet them. August then approaches Shin, joking, why are you so nervous? It's just a speech in front of the whole academy, the king, and all the nobles. No big deal. August laughs at Shin. Shin responds, you're doing this because I got the highest score, aren't you, August? They're soon joined by Cecily and Maria, and they all head into the hall together. The instructor invites Shin to the stage for the speech, calling his full name. Maria and Cecily are shocked to learn that their friend Shin is the hero's grandson. Shin greets everyone and gives his speech while Kurt fumes with jealousy. The next morning, the teacher enters the classroom and tells the students that he was part of the magic division and will be in charge of their class from now on. After class, Maria tells Shin that Cecily wants to tell him something. Cecily explains that Kurt has been bothering her because of his father's influence, and she doesn't know how to stop him. At that moment, Kurt arrives, yelling at Cecily for standing with Shin. Shin stands up to him, and Cecily shouts at Kurt, telling him to stay away from her. Shin is about to insult him when August steps in, scolds Kurt, and orders him to leave, promising to inform the king about everything that's been happening. Kurt leaves, filled with his usual rage. Cecily thanks August for helping as well. The friends are worried about what Kurt might do next, so Shin tells them to be careful from now on and invites them to his house. Maria and Cecily get excited because they'll visit the hero's home. August says he'll come along too, as his father is probably already there. At that moment, August's companions, Thor and Julius, appear and say they'll come too, since they're the prince's escorts. They head to the house, and Shin's grandparents ask him why he took so long to return. He then introduces his school friends. Shin tells his grandparents and King Dis what happened, and he mentions to his grandmother that he plans to re-enchant Cecily's uniform, purely for her safety. Everyone is surprised by Shin's words. His grandmother tells Cecily that what Shin is offering to do for her is extremely important and asks, do you think you deserve this? Cecily becomes very nervous, and Shin says to his grandmother, why are you making this a big deal? His grandmother scolds him, saying, be quiet. Do you even understand how valuable this enchanted uniform will be? She explains that the uniform would be classified as a national treasure because of the excellent magic Shin would put into it, making it incredibly valuable. She then asks Cecily again, do you think you deserve this? Cecily bursts into tears, saying she doesn't deserve it and that she's been taking advantage of Shin's kindness. She apologizes profusely to Shin and tells him she'll handle her own problems from now on, so he shouldn't worry about her. She apologizes to everyone and starts to leave, but Shin's grandmother stops her, comforts her, and reassures her. She insists that Shin will enchant her uniform, and indeed, Shin proceeds to enchant the uniforms of his other friends as well. Afterward, they prepare to leave, and Shin offers to help them travel from the house to the academy in the future. They ask how, and he shows them his magical teleportation gate. Everyone is amazed, and Shin shows them the house he used to live in, deep in the forest. They're all astonished by his strange magic. The next morning, Shin begins escorting Maria and Cecily to the academy for safety reasons. When they arrive, their friends greet them, and their friend Alice barely makes it on time. She's nervous that she might have been been late, but they reassure her she's right on time. Maria jokingly says, "What's up with you?" Who arrives just on time on their first day. Alice laughs and explains that she was too excited to sleep last night, then accidentally overslept a bit in the morning. Maria gets annoyed and says, "Are you a kid or something?" Shin thinks to himself, she is a kid, but in this strange world, 15 is considered an adult. The teacher then arrives, gives them their first lesson, and takes them on a tour around the academy, showing them all the important places. After the tour, the teacher explains the academy's various departments and specializations and tells them they can form their own activity groups. The students then ask Shin which group he plans to join. As usual, August teases Shin and says, "Oh, come on, you're the super genius. There's probably no group that matches your level, right?" Shin is stunned, and even more so when he realizes that the teacher and students all love the idea. Everything is going smoothly, and they even start coming up with a name for the group, eventually calling it Ultimate Magic. Meanwhile, the king and his council are extremely concerned about the large number of cursed monsters appearing recently. They suspect someone is behind the increasing number of these creatures. The king orders the recruitment of demon hunters to investigate the matter thoroughly before it escalates further. That evening, Kurt's father is furious with him over his behavior at the academy. He calls Kurt to him and scolds him, but Kurt only gets angrier. His father strikes him and orders the guards to lock Kurt in his room as punishment. The next morning, the students hear that Kurt has been punished by his father and won't be leaving the house for a while. Thor then mentions that he knew Kurt before they entered the academy, and he wasn't like this at all. Unfortunately, Kurt completely changed after he started attending classes with a teacher named Storm. Shin is curious and asks, "Who is Storm?" Thor explains that during their third year of middle school, Storm became their magic teacher. He said he was exiled from the Empire and started teaching all the weaker students magic. He would often invite them to visit his laboratory, but something about him seemed odd, so they refused. Thor adds that the teacher might be blind because he wears an eye patch covering both eyes. Yet strangely, he acts completely normal, possibly using a special type of magic that allows him to see heat, for instance. At that moment, Storm arrives at Kurt's house and is greeted by his mother. She thanks him for coming and asks for his help with Kurt, explaining that her son has become completely unrecognizable. She starts crying. Storm comforts her, telling her not to worry and that he'll talk to Kurt to understand the situation. She thanks him. Storm then goes to Kurt's room, where Kurt is tied up, and it's revealed that Storm is the one responsible for Kurt's transformation. He has been turning Kurt into a wicked person. Storm fuels Kurt's anger even more, and it's clear now that he's truly evil. Storm fills Kurt with cursed energy, transforming him into a cursed monster. Storm then leaves the house. Meanwhile, the students are in the academy cafe during their break, enjoying a meal. August asks Shin what he plans to do about Cecily now that Kurt is being punished. August says there's no need for Shin to escort her every day anymore. Shin replies that they're friends, and since they live on the same route, it's no problem. Cecily agrees with him. The friends continue chatting about magic and their magical abilities. Shin talks to them about cursed monsters and their energy. He tells them that he once fought a cursed monster, a bear, and everyone is shocked as usual. They're even more stunned when they learn he was only 8 years old at the time. Afterward, the friends head to class, but suddenly, Shin senses cursed energy and sees Kurt approaching, engulfed in fury. Kurt uses fire magic and launches a powerful attack, but Shin quickly blocks it with his magic. Shin tells his friends to use the power in their enchanted uniforms to protect the others. At that moment, Kurt's anger grows even more, and cursed energy floods the area around him. Shin realizes he has no choice but to fight Kurt. He orders his friends to escape for their own safety. At first, they refuse, but Shin convinces them and charges at Kurt with his sword. By now, Kurt has fully transformed into a cursed monster. A fierce battle ensues between Shin and Kurt, but Shin realizes there's no hope of saving Kurt. He decides that he must finish him off and, with one powerful strike of his sword, decapitates Kurt, ending the battle. Shin is saddened by having to kill Kurt because, at the end of the day, Kurt was still human, and it was hard for him. But he had no other choice. His friends rush over to check on him and are relieved to see that he's okay. Shin reassures them he's fine, and they are shocked that he was able to defeat a cursed human with just one strike, marveling at how incredibly powerful he is. Shin, feeling tense and sad, says, "You saw the battle," and they respond, "Yes," and we find the evil teacher observing the situation from above, standing on the academy's rooftop, and he says that what happened is good, too, and that the card experiment has become a success, but he's also surprised by Shin's strength. At that moment, Shin is worried and standing upset at the academy, and August comes over, joking with him, saying, "Are you upset because everyone considers you a hero now, or what?" Shin replies, "Yeah, that's true, but there's something else bothering bothering me. Is it that easy for someone to turn into a cursed human? So August says, you've got a point. How did this even happen in the first place? Then Thor speaks up, saying that a person can turn into a cursed human by being hit with very powerful cursed energy magic. And since Kart's magic was really weak to begin with, it's unlikely that he could have transformed on his own. So Shin says, that means someone else must have caused this? And his friends are shocked, asking, do you mean someone turned him into a cursed human? Shin tells them that his grandfather once said cursed monsters lose all sense of consciousness and can't do anything except scream, but Kart, after his transformation, was able to speak normally, and he was really weak during the fight, which means Kart might have just been a human experiment. After school ends, Shin and his friends head to Shin's house, where the king is also present. The king tells Shin that he's arrived just in time. At that moment, the king's guard greets Shin and congratulates him, thanking him for his bravery in eliminating a cursed human that could have caused a great danger to the country. He tells Shin that he will be awarded the first Medal of Honor personally by the king, which shocks Shin, while his friends are happy for him. But Shin's grandparents are tense and ask the king, is this the agreement we had? Didn't you say you wouldn't use Shin for political purposes? So what's all this about? The king responds by reminding them that the last time a cursed human appeared, when they defeated it and saved the country, the nation was in great danger. Now, another cursed human has appeared, and news has spread all over the country. So, they have to reward Shin because he's done what they once did, and they need to honor him too. The grandparents agree at this point. Shin's grandmother then says, you troublemaker, you're always getting into some mess. I don't know what to do with you. Shin replies, wait a second, I didn't even do anything this time. The next morning, the news spreads throughout the country, and everyone becomes amazed with the hero, Shin. Even at school, all the students want to join Shin's group. The teacher doesn't know what to do because if he accepts all the students, there won't be any other groups since everyone wants to join Shin's group. An idea then pops into the teacher's head, and he asks the students, can any of you use a second-dimensional storage space? All the students are shocked. The teacher tells them that's the minimum requirement to join and decides to hold an entrance exam. Meanwhile, the king is in a meeting with his council, discussing the possibility that humans can be turned into cursed monsters, leading the council to conclude that the recent increase in cursed monsters was caused by someone. The king orders two of his commanders to work together and solve the issue quickly. We then go back to the academy's classroom, where two new students arrive to join Shin and his friends. Shin asks them, are you the two who were allowed to join by teacher Alfred? The boy's name is Mark, and his family runs the most famous blacksmith shop in town. The girl's name is Olivia, a childhood friend and neighbor of Mark, whose family runs a restaurant called Brick Oven, one of the kingdom's most renowned eateries. Shin then tells Mark that he wants to ask him something about blacksmithing, and they later agree to work on a new sword with specific features that Shin desires. At that moment, investigators visit Kart's house to uncover what happened. Afterward, they head to Teacher Storm's house, where they begin questioning him, asking about what happened to his eyes. He tells them that he was born into a noble family in the Empire, but after losing a power struggle for the family's leadership, he was exiled and lost his eyes when a member of his family tried to eliminate him. They then discuss the reason for their visit, and in the middle of the conversation, the teacher mentions being upset about what happened to Kart, which surprises the investigators because they never mention the incident to him. This raises their suspicions, and they ask the teacher to come with them for questioning. The teacher agrees and goes with them. Meanwhile, Shin is with his friends when Cicely asks him, what are you thinking about? Shin tells her that he's thinking about how to improve his sword. Mark asks, what kind of sword do you want to use? Shin replies, one with a sharp blade that's also strong enough not to break easily, which I know is difficult. Then Tony gets an idea and says, how about making the blade replaceable? Shin and Mark are both amazed by the suggestion. Mark then tells Shin, how about you come to our workshop? I want to try this idea right away. The friends decide to finish school and then head to the workshop and later to Olivia's family restaurant. Meanwhile, the investigators arrive at the security forces headquarters with Teacher Storm. The teacher gets a strange feeling and asks, why are the cursed creatures' bodies being examined at the security forces headquarters? The investigator replies, for certain reasons. They then reach the courtyard. At that moment, the knights surround the teacher from all directions, having trapped him to arrest him. The investigator tells the teacher that the king had kept Kart's name hidden so no one would know it, and since the teacher knew it, he must be responsible for what happened, and he's now under arrest. Seeing that he's been exposed, the teacher bursts out laughing hysterically, telling them, I never imagined all this would happen, and admits that what happened was a human experiment he conducted. The investigator, furious, asks him, you conducted an experiment on a human? At this point, the investigator orders the knights to arrest the teacher, but the teacher proves to be incredibly strong and begins fighting back. Suddenly, there's an explosion at the security forces headquarters, floors, and Shin and his friends take notice of what's happening. They see the teacher wiping out the knights. At that moment, Shin becomes furious with the teacher for turning Cart into a cursed human, and the teacher casually admits it as if nothing happened. Shin then attacks the teacher, and a fierce battle breaks out between them. The teacher is incredibly powerful, dodging all of Shin's attacks until Shin manages to break the glasses covering the teacher's eyes, revealing that he's not blind at all but hiding his eyes to conceal the fact that he's also a cursed monster. During this time, Shin gathers the heat energy from the sun in the sky without anyone noticing and then unleashes a powerful attack on the teacher, completely destroying him. But when the dust settles, there's no trace of the teacher's body, leaving Shin unsure whether the teacher escaped, evaporated, or something else happened. Later, the royal investigators responsible for the case arrive and thank Shin for saving everyone. The next day, Shin is out with his friends. Shin gets nervous and thinks, I have a feeling Storm is still alive. August, surprised, says, what are you talking about, man? How could that be? Shin calmly explains, did you see what happened to the land from the thermal rays I unleashed? When I did it again in the forest, it only left craters. But this explosion, it looks like Storm caused it to escape. August then says, so he's really alive? Anyway, when we get to the blacksmith shop, ask for the sword you want, don't worry. The royal family will cover the cost. You're the only one who can face Storm, so we need to equip you the best way possible. They arrive at the blacksmith's shop and meet Kark and Olivia. The girls go with Olivia to their shop, and the boys head with Mark to the workshop. Mark enters the workshop with the boys, calls for his father, and introduces his friends to him. The father is completely surprised by the presence of the prince and the grandson of the two heroes. August asks the father to create a suitable weapon for Shin according to his specifications. The father is overjoyed and tells them it will be an honor to craft the weapon for the new hero. He then asks Shin what kind of weapon he wants, and Shin begins to describe the weapon's features. The scene then shifts to the Empire of Blusivia in the Emperor's palace. A suspicious-looking man named Zest informs the king about the appearance of cursed monsters in the kingdom of Earlshide and says it's the perfect time to attack and take control of the country. We return to the friends, who have finished their tasks and regroup. Shin tells Cicely he will get her a ring to enchant with protection magic to keep her safe, and he does just that. Next comes the day of the award ceremony, and Shin is extremely nervous. He's escorted by knights to the celebration hall, where he's shocked to see a massive crowd of people. The event is much bigger than he expected, with all the country's nobles present. King dishands Shin the medal afterward. The following day, Shin is exhausted as he heads to the academy with Cicely and Maria, still tired from the previous day's event. Just as he opens the door, he finds a crowd of people waiting to meet him since he's the new hero. Shin decides to start using the magic portal to get to the academy to avoid the crowds. He activates it and arrives at class in seconds, surprising his friends with the portal. They ask him about it, and he explains why he used it because of the crowd gathered outside his house. Class starts, and Shin explains what they'll be doing next in their group study. The first lesson is about using magic shields. Maria tries, but her shield is weak. To explain better, Shin has Cicely use her shield, which is enhanced by the magic ring Shin gave her. Her shield is strong and consists of 2 layers, unlike the standard ones the others know. Shin explains that it all depends on the amount of magic power they can control. He then tells them he will demonstrate his own magical power so they can understand his point. He unleashes his power, and it's so overwhelming that most of his friends collapse to the ground. Shin tells them that if they can't control their magic power, they'll never improve their magical skills. He announces that their training from now on will focus on magic power control. The scene then shifts to Storm, who is injured. His assistant speaks to him, explaining the situation with the Imperial Army. We also learn that Zest is working for Storm and is there on his orders. Meanwhile, Shin returns home with Cicely, Maria, and their classmates via the portal. His friends are amazed to be in the presence of his legendary grandparents. Shin tells his grandfather and grandmother that he started instructing his classmates in training. The grandfather talks to Shin and his friends about magic, saying that understanding is the key to everything, and that's the method Shin uses in his magic. The next morning at school, their friend arrives looking exhausted from diligently practicing her magic. Shin tells her to take it easy, as it's dangerous to push herself too hard. She responds, saying not to worry, since her father is a royal court mage and they have a fortified room for magical training. The friends then go to Mark's workshop, where his father has completed Shin's weapon. Shin is impressed with the quality and speed of the work. The father laughs, saying, of course, what did you expect? Shin tests the new weapon and is thrilled with it. August is also impressed with the sword. Afterward, they head back to the girls, and Maria exclaims, you're finally done. Shin replies, yes, and I also brought brought you all gifts. They get excited, and Shin explains he brought them enchanted accessories that will provide protection and enhancements. August then asks Shin if he could make swords like his for the royal army. Shin agrees, saying there's no problem as long as his grandparents approve, since the sword's design belongs to Tony. August adds that it will be very useful for the upcoming war, which surprises Shin. Olivia says she expected this too, based on what the customers were talking about. The scene shifts to the Imperial Army camp, where the king is furious. He says that from the information Zest provided, the kingdom was too preoccupied with the cursed monsters to send forces to fight us, so why are all these troops waiting for us? The soldiers respond that their forces have suffered heavy losses due to the ambushes set by the kingdom's troops along the way, and they need to retreat and reorganize. The king dismisses that for now and demands, "What happened to Zest? Where is he?" Another soldier responds, saying, "We haven't seen him since yesterday, and his team hasn't returned from their reconnaissance either." At that moment, the king realizes that Zest has betrayed him and becomes furious, vowing to cut off his head the moment he finds him. Just then, a report arrives, stating that a large number of cursed monsters have appeared in the imperial capital. The king is shocked, asking, "What are you saying? There were supposed to be only a few cursed monsters in the empire." The soldiers tell the king they need to return to the capital immediately to deal with the monsters. The king orders all soldiers to return to the capital and expel the cursed monsters. Meanwhile, in the Earlshide army camp, the commander and advisor discuss how the imperial forces retreated quickly after losing a significant portion of their troops. The commanders decide to pursue the imperial army and deliver a strong blow to them. But then, a report arrives, informing them that the front lines of their army have been attacked by cursed monsters, shocking the commanders. The scene then shifts to the imperial capital, now in complete chaos, with monsters everywhere, wiping out civilians and destroying everything in their path. This, of course, is all the work of Storm and his assistant, Miria. Storm turns to Miria and says, "What do you think of all this, Miria?" We see that he has transformed her into a cursed monster like himself. She responds, saying it's her first time feeling so powerful, and she feels amazing with all the strength she now possesses. Storm is waiting for Zest to return, along with the Imperial forces, who will come to deal with the cursed monsters. He plans to greet them in his own special way. The king and his forces arrive at the royal palace, and the capital is in utter disarray. The king, furious, tells his commanders they must eliminate the monsters in the capital by sunset. At that moment, Storm appears before the king and says, "You've finally arrived. I've been waiting for you for a while, your majesty." The king is startled at the sight of Storm and asks, "What are you doing here, Storm?" Storm replies, "I made sure to come personally to deal with you." He then uses magic to bind the king with intense pressure and finishes him off with powerful fire magic. 3 days later, Earlshide's forces arrive at the imperial capital and are shocked by the total devastation. At this point, Storm appears and greets them, saying he has been waiting for them. Storm taunts them from an unknown location, speaking without revealing himself. Suddenly, a large number of cursed people, now transformed into cursed monsters, emerge. The scene shifts to Earlshide's palace a few days later. The king is meeting with his council and exclaims, "It's impossible that Storm is still alive." The military commander replies that they had no choice but to retreat and barely escaped. The king acknowledges that it was a wise decision and doesn't blame him for it. He asks the advisors what they should do now, while at the same time, Teacher Farid tells the students at the academy that Storm is still alive and currently in the empire. So, the decision is made, everyone must level up, the soldiers and the academy students alike. From now on, there will be joint training between the magicians and the knights. Afterward, the friends feel annoyed, and Shin asks them why. They explain that the students from the night school always see themselves as stronger than them and call them saplings. At the same time, the magic school students mock the knights, calling them muscleheads. The friends are all very upset with the knights. Shin tells them it's fine. "We all have our strengths and weaknesses." Maria responds, "Well, you're strong. You know how to use both magic and martial arts." Shin doesn't know how to reply to her, and then Cecily asks him, "Who taught you martial arts, right, Shin?" He says that Michelle was the one who taught him, and that his training was incredibly harsh. All the students are shocked, and he asks, "What's going on? Did I say something strange?" Tony bursts out, "You said Michelle, right? You mean Michelle Calling, don't you?" Shin answers, "Yes, what's the big deal? Explain." Julius then says, "You mean the former leader of the Knights, Sir Michel?" Shin replies, "Yeah, I think he mentioned something like that that before. They are all stunned and say, "So, you learned magic from the great Merlin, enchanted tools from the legendary hero, and swordsmanship from the master swordsman Michel?" Shin is confused and asks, "Master swordsman? What do you mean?" Thor says, "You didn't know? There's no one more skilled with a sword than Michel Calling. Even his title is the Master Swordsman." Shin says, "To me, he was just a strict trainer, nothing more." The friends tell him, "Since Michel the Great was your teacher, that means you're even better than the night school students at swordsmanship." Shin responds, "None of that matters right now. The important thing is that we work together in this mission and train as a team." Later, outside the capital's gates, the teachers split the magician and knight students into groups, with each group containing 4 knights and 4 magicians. They will enter the forest to exterminate the cursed monsters. As usual, the night students look down on the magicians, including Shin. Maria says to Shin, "See, didn't I tell you? They're just a bunch of fools." The teams enter the forest. Shin's team consists of 8 people: himself, August, Maria, Cecily, and 4 knights. The knights introduce themselves to the magicians. Chris is their leader and ranked first, followed by Miranda, who is ranked second, along with Nobin and Kent. Shin asks them, "Can I ask you a question before we start training?" Chris replies, "What is it?" Shin asks, "Have you ever fought cursed monsters before?" Miranda responds, "Are you showing off because you've killed one before?" Shin replies, "Not at all, but we're about to fight cursed monsters, so we need to work together." Miranda says, "And if we don't do what you say, then what?" Shin calmly replies, "You'll die." Everyone is shocked and scared. The clueless Miranda tells him, "The night school is the only one that can defeat the monsters. You're just in our way." The knights continue to boast arrogantly, as usual, without understanding anything. August steps in, taunting them, and tells Shin he doesn't want to kill a single monster during the training, leaving it to the knights to show us their abilities. The knights get nervous and reply, "Yes, your highness." The teams head deeper into the forest, eager to fight monsters. Cecily mentions that each group should have 2 supervisors from both the magicians and the knights. At that moment, Sig and Chris, Shin's friends from the noble families, appear. Shin is shocked and asks, "What are you doing here? Are you our guides?" He tells them, "Please don't fight with each other today." Each one responds, "As long as the other doesn't start, I won't do anything." They begin arguing as usual. The students introduce themselves to Sig and Chris, and even the knights are excited. They head deeper into the forest, and suddenly Shin senses the presence of a cursed monster. He tells Sig, who responds, "Yes, I noticed." Sig informs the knights of the monster's presence and tells them to prepare for battle. Suddenly, a cursed boar appears. The knights are tense, but they surround the monster. As they attack, the monster dodges and takes them all out with one blow, leaving them helpless. At the last moment, before the monster finishes them off, Shin draws his sword, rushes forward, and kills the monster with a single strike, slicing off its head. The knights are stunned by Shin's strength and that he defeated the monster in one blow. Chris scolds the knights, telling them, "Your performance was disgraceful. This monster was just a weak, medium-level one, and look at you now. You brag about being the best at the night school, but you're completely useless in battle. You're very weak. You need to cooperate with your team during training." Cecily steps in afterward, using healing magic to treat all of them. The training continues, and another cursed monster appears. Shin uses his magic and tells Sig, "There's a large number of them." Sig replies, "Yeah, I noticed." Another team arrives and tells Sig's team to retreat because there are more than 100 monsters. Shin tells Sig, "I want to handle all these monsters. Is that okay?" Sig replies, "Sure, I'm counting on you." Cecily gets worried and says, "No, it's impossible for Shin to take on all these monsters. It's too dangerous." Sig and Chris respond, "For Shin, this is child's play." At that moment, Shin channels all his anger into his fire attack, unleashing it all at the horde of monsters charging toward them, wiping them all out in one devastating strike. He even destroys a large part of the forest. The knights are left speechless, unable to say a word. The training continues, searching for monsters in the forest, and suddenly another bear-like monster appears. This time, Cecily and Maria attack it with fire magic. Then the knights follow up, while Shin protects them with his shield magic. The knights gain confidence and quickly finish off the monster, and Cecily heals them afterward with her magic. With that, the training ends. Sig and Chris are pleased that the knights and magicians factions have finally integrated and can fight together against the monsters. Sig asks Shin, how come your mage friends are so skilled? They're on a level higher than even the royal court mages. Shin replies, well, we started a new study group at the academy, and these three are part of my study group. Sig says, so, are you training with special methods? Shin responds, no, not really. We just train the way my grandfather taught me. Sig is surprised and asks, is that all? Are you sure? Shin replies, maybe I just taught them how to visualize magic when they use it. Sig says, exactly, that's the real reason. In other words, they're learning magic the way you do, right? He asks Shin if he can learn what their group is doing to master magic. Shin says, sure, no problem. Then August, who always butts into everything, says, wait a minute, your ideas will belong to the royal army, and the king promised that wouldn't happen. The training ends, and everyone returns, telling Shin about their experiences during training. Then August says that all members of the Absolute Magic Group, except for Shin, will be under national supervision after graduation and might become a special unit directly under August's supervision. Honestly, August's only role seems to be that he's the prince, but okay, let's move on. The friends are excited that they will become the kingdom's most important combat unit, and they ask Shin to teach them more about magic. He agrees. A few days later, Shin takes them to a vast area to continue their training, and they demonstrate truly impressive strength. And then August calls the team again to give them one of his endless speeches, telling them he'll reveal important information that can't be shared with the public. Shin asks him, so you're going to spill state secrets? August responds by saying that from today, they're no longer just civilians and have become an important part of the military forces in the upcoming war. The friends start to realize the serious situation they're in, understanding that they've become a special unit from this moment. Shin then asks, so, what's the new classified info you're going to tell us? August replies, reports say that demonic beasts are stirring up riots all over the empire, and the damage there has become catastrophic. The problem is that the number of beasts is increasing daily due to the attacks. Something is causing people to turn into cursed monsters. Shin responds, like what happened to Cart, right? August replies, yes, you could say that. Shin gets angry, thinking, Storm, you scoundrel, what are you planning next? Later, Shin decides to organize a training camp for his team, and everyone is excited since it'll be held during the summer vacation. They then think about where to hold the camp and decide that the training will take place there, but they'll stay at Cicely's family's house in their hot spring area. Shin pitches the idea to his grandparents, who agree on the condition that they supervise the camp, and in the end, both of them agree to be the supervisors. Everyone prepares for the camp, and the students are thrilled to learn that the two heroes will also be joining them. On the way, the team encounters a group of monsters, and they decide to fight them. They draw lots to see who will fight the monsters, and a girl from the team wins, defeating all the monsters with a single, easy attack. The grandparents comment on how quickly the kids have improved. Later, they arrive in Claude, Cicely's family's land, and they are amazed that the entire town is filled with hot springs. Finally, they arrive at the house and are warmly welcomed by Cicely and the servants, who greet her and the group, letting them rest in the hot springs. In the men's bath, Shin's grandfather is happy that Shin finally has friends his own age, and he thanks them for being Shin's friends. But August replies, no, we're the ones who are happy to have Shin in our lives. The next morning, the grandfather starts training the youths in magic, giving them some instructions that help their magic improve rapidly. Later, the grandmother trains them in magical tools and magic inscription. Their progress is significant, and Shin is very happy. Shin then takes them to the training arena to practice casting magic, and the grandparents notice the great improvement. But Shin tells them they will still face difficulties when fighting cursed monsters. The grandmother responds, that's truly a global crisis. Shin says, yes, we all need to be stronger, even me. His friends are shocked that he, too, feels the need to become stronger, and they nervously distance themselves. Later, Shin prepares to cast his magic as well, and all of his friends activate their magical shields to protect themselves from the power of Shin's strike. As usual, Shin visualizes his magic and casts a very powerful spell, creating a destructive blast that destroys everything in its path, mountains, landscapes, anything in its way. Shin is happy that the magic worked, but his grandmother scolds him for being reckless as usual, and Shin apologizes to her. She then tells them, that's enough training for today. Let's head back home. Later, August asks Shin to take him through the magic portal to the royal palace so he can get new information about the cursed monsters. Shin agrees, no problem. The moment they enter the palace, August meets his fiancée, Ellie, who is furious with him for being neglectful and always busy. Shin meets Ellie, and she greets him. August asks her, what are you doing here? Ellie angrily responds, you left me and your sister, May, here while you went camping. At that moment, May arrives, also angry because they didn't take her camping with them. She wants to join join them at the camp to meet the two great heroes. August asks them, "So, what are you doing here?" Ellie replies, "We've decided we're coming with you to the camp." August says, "No way, over my dead body. We're not there to have fun, and no force will make me take you with us." At that moment, they complain to the king, and he asks, "What's the problem with taking them along?" So, it's decided that they'll join them, and this time, Shin is happy to see August being the one who gets hassled. Later, they walk around the town and have a meal before returning to the house, where Cicely warmly welcomes them. They thank her for hosting them, and they enjoy their time at the camp with both training and fun. One morning during training, Shin meets Cicely, and she asks him to do something important. Meet her father today before he goes to work, since they're going to be engaged. Shin replies, "Of course, let's go meet him quickly," and they go to meet Cicely's parents. They then discuss the engagement details, and Shin agrees to everything. Cicely's parents give them their blessing, and everyone is happy, while Cicely feels very shy. They return to the camp, and everyone trains with great effort and determination. Ellie watches everything happening and can't believe the immense magical power coming from Shin's friends' attacks. Shin then says, "I think that's enough warm-up." Ellie is shocked and says, "Warm-up? You're all about to blow up the world." The grandfather arrives and asks Ellie and May, "So, what do you think of what you've seen? You wanted to watch, didn't you?" He then says, "What do you think about trying magic yourselves?" Ellie declines, saying she's not into magic, but May is enthusiastic, and the grandfather starts teaching her the basics of magic control. May tries it and succeeds, feeling very happy. The grandparents praise her, saying she's excellent for her age and might have the potential to become a sorcerer. The scene shifts to the capital of the empire, where destruction is everywhere, and the city has become a wasteland. Storm asks Maria, "Tell me, what's the situation now?" She responds, "Due to the attacks on the caravans, all the empire cities are suffering from food shortages, and the people have fallen into deep despair." Storm, filled with joy, replies, "If that's the case, it seems the time has finally come for our plan." We return to Shin and his friends during their training. This time, Shin is about to cast a spell, and as usual, everyone activates their shields to protect themselves, asking him, "Why are you so cautious this time?" They tell him, "Since you're using a new spell, we have to be prepared in case something goes wrong." Shin reassures them, saying the spell isn't an offensive one this time. They relax and remove their shields. Shin casts the spell on a stone, making it fly into the sky. As usual, they can't believe what they're seeing and ask, "What's the name of the spell?" Shin replies, "It's called levitation magic," and explains what he did, but as usual, they don't understand anything. They simply say, "That's amazing as always." Shin responds, "Amazing? You haven't seen anything yet." He then uses the spell on himself, and he flies into the sky, feeling very happy to be able to fly. The group is left in complete shock, and August says, "You've done something extraordinary again." Shin tells them, "This is the same magic that Storm used, and I learned it so I could face him." Cicely tells Shin, "You're incredible." Later in the evening, Shin and Cicely sit with the grandparents, discussing the details of their engagement, just as they did with Cicely's parents. Afterward, the grandparents visit Cicely's family home with Shin and Cicely. Her parents are thrilled to have the two great heroes in their home. And then the grandmother sits with Cicely's family and tells them that Shin isn't their biological grandson and that they adopted him. She says they need to know this truth. Cicely's father responds, saying he's upset they thought he might reject the engagement over something like that. He says he accepted the engagement because of Shin, not because he's the grandson of the two great heroes. "We accepted Shin because he respects Cicely and will protect her. That's the reason we agreed," he says, and Cicely's mother confirms his words. The grandmother apologizes for her wrong assumption, and Shin thanks them for their trust, promising he'll always protect Cicely with all his strength. After that, Shin's team gets ready and puts on their new team uniforms. Shin tells them that the outfits suit them all perfectly. This magic is linked to Shin's powerful defensive magic, which will enhance their abilities and protect them with great force. They ask, "So, our uniform is now at the national treasure level, right?" And Shin responds, "Yes." Shin then tells them that today's training will be a bit dangerous, as they will be attacking cursed monsters from the upper class. The team gets scared, but Shin reassures them, saying they've improved a lot. May and Ellie are upset that they can't join today's training. August explains that today's training involves real combat with the monsters, which will be dangerous. May feels sad, so Shin decides to cheer her up by giving her a magical communication device, essentially a phone. He tells May to practice using it until they return. However, the grandmother finds out about the device Shin made and scolds him again. Then they head out for training, and Cicely senses the presence of a gigantic and powerful monster. It's a cursed lion from the upper class. Shin splits the team into groups and has the first group attack the monster. As soon as the monster approaches, 5 members unleash their attack on it, and the sheer force of the the attack terrifies the monster, wiping it out completely and even destroying the surrounding area. The team is shocked that they defeated an upper-class monster so easily. After that, each team member begins individually attacking the monsters, wiping out all the cursed creatures they encounter. The whole team is excited about the battle, and Shin is very happy. Then August says to Shin, "I'm excited for your engagement party." Man, the day ends and the engagement day arrives. Shin wears his suit and Cicely puts on her dress. Cicely's mother then escorts them to the dining hall to start the engagement ceremony. Everyone is very happy for them, and the celebration is attended by the king. Later, the whole team learns levitation magic and successfully tries it. They're very happy to be flying, and we learn that Shin cast levitation on them, and they're using wind magic to fly freely. Shin is happy that they've mastered flying in the sky. Mei tells him that she wants to try flying quickly as well. Then, Shin uses a new device like a microphone to call them down from the sky. The friends comment that this device will be very useful during the prince's coronation ceremony. Mei gets impatient and calls out to them, saying, "Hurry up, come down so we can fly too." After that, we shift to the cursed monster's castle, where we learn from Storm that the last city has fallen, and all the towns and villages within the Imperial region are now gone. Storm's assistant says that Zest's demon team attacked the caravans on the road and cut off all food supplies. She thinks to herself that Storm hates the Empire's nobles, but by doing all of this the wrong way, there have been many victims as well. She asks herself why he's going to such extremes. They then head to the throne room, where Storm speaks to his followers. He tells them that thanks to their efforts, they've managed to lead the Empire into ruin, which is a great opportunity for them. When the followers hear this, they cheer with excitement and praise him. He then asks them, "Alright, what should we do next? My initial goal was to destroy the Empire, but there's nothing left for me to do now." His followers are shocked by what he says, and they tell him, "We need to continue and invade the neighboring lands." He asks them, "Why should we do something boring like that?" They respond, "With our large numbers, we could establish our own cursed monster kingdom." But Storm replies, "You're free to follow your dreams, but don't think you can force your ideas on me." One of the followers says, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Storm responds, "You should have done that from the start. Anyway, I'm not interested in your choice." Afterward, Storm tells the remaining group, "You also have the right to do whatever you want. I won't say anything." Once a large group leaves, his deputy asks if he's sure about letting them go. He replies, "Yes, it doesn't matter to me anymore. I've already achieved my goal of bringing down the Empire." He adds, "Now they can do whatever they want." Then, his assistant asks him, "Why do you even have such hatred for the Empire? I heard you were once a duke there, and you were close to becoming emperor." Storm answers, "Oh, I haven't told you before? Well, since you brought it up, I might as well tell you." He starts by explaining, "It all began long ago when my name was Oliveira, and it was 2 years ago." At that moment, we see Storm in a large vegetable field, paying attention to the small details of farming, and it's clear he's a kind person. We learn that he was greatly responsible for the advancement of agriculture, to the point where there was a large workforce in the rural areas because of him. His colleague asks, "Why are you so kind to the common people?" Storm replies, "I had a belief when I was young. I always wanted the nobles to have the biggest share in the country. But during my travels as a young man, I was shocked by a foreign country. Unlike our empire, that country had no system of slavery, and even the common people lived well and were financially comfortable. When I saw the difference between the common people here and those in our empire, I realized that's how the future of the empire should be." Then we see him in his mansion, sitting in the library, reading some books. His wife comes in and suggests he rest for the day. She says, "It's wonderful that you're working hard for your people, but you're not focusing on your health." His wife's name is Arya, and she's pregnant. Storm replies, "No, you need to focus more on your health than me. The one inside you is our treasure." Then we cut to another place where a man named Vaughn is speaking to a group of people. One of them asks him to summon Oliveira to the imperial capital because he's becoming a source of trouble for them. Those around him agree with his decision, saying Oliveira is indeed causing trouble, as many commoners are leaving the region because of him. They're clearly very upset. Vaughn continues, saying that if Oliveira keeps contributing financially to the empire, he'll become the most influential figure in the empire and eventually become emperor. The nobles around him aren't happy about this because if Oliveira becomes emperor, he'll implement laws favoring the common people, and they don't like that at all. At that moment, Vaughn tells them to keep him in the capital as much as they can, using any excuse. Then we cut to Strom's house, where he's happy to find a letter from the other nobles, saying they finally want to hear his ideas. His wife congratulates him on the good news, but is suspicious about why they agreed so suddenly and asks him about the reason. He tells her that lately, their tax revenues have decreased, and that's what pleased them. If this continues, their contribution contribution to the empire will significantly increase, and the recent contributions will likely strip them of their titles. After that, they might decide to do whatever they can. I also read in the letter that they plan to have a meeting in the capital very soon and want him to guide them in managing the region. His wife asks if he's sure it's not dangerous, and says, I understand that some nobles see you as a big influence in the country, and they might be plotting something bad for you. He reassures her, don't worry, you know I'm very strong in magic. No one can beat me in that. When I was young, I spent a lot of time hunting cursed beasts, so something like this wouldn't affect me much. They won't be able to assassinate me easily. His wife, sarcastically, says, hunting beasts? You were a hunter for just a month. He laughs, okay, let's keep that quiet, and they share a laugh. After he leaves on his journey, his wife watches from the window, hoping nothing bad happens to him. In the village, a person has gone missing, and we learn it's the third person to disappear. The problem is, all the missing people are women and children, and it's happening not just in this area but also in several regions. At that moment, a group of military police from the capital arrives and talks to the villagers about the recent kidnappings. When they hear the villagers say that kidnappings have indeed occurred, they are shocked, but the officer tells them to lower their voices and informs them that they have information that the kidnapped people are being sold as slaves. He asks if they've heard anything about this. Turns out this was all part of Vaughn's plan to frame Oliveira. His first move was to kidnap some women and children from the village and pin it on Oliveira. Then, he sends some policemen to accuse Oliveira of the crime, who, of course, isn't there to defend himself. The villagers talk about it, but they still believe it. Meanwhile, Oliveira has decided to return to his home to see his wife, whom he misses. Vaughn, at that moment, is preparing to finally take Oliveira out. He puts some kidnapped women in a carriage with Oliveira's name on it and has the farmers arrest them. At that moment, the farmers are furious and decide to march with torches to Oliveira's house. When they arrive, they set his house on fire, killing his wife. Oliveira is the only survivor. When he reaches his house and sees the fire, he's shocked by what he finds, and when he goes to his wife, she's already dead. He cries, telling the people around him, "Is this my reward for treating you well? For you to kill my wife and my unborn child?" The farmers respond, "Well, you kidnapped the village women." Oliveira realizes it was all a conspiracy against him, and in his rage, he swears to destroy the kingdom and everyone in it. He casts a powerful spell, killing all the villagers in seconds. And that's Strom's story. Now we return to Zest, who is saddened because Strom has lost his purpose and has nothing left to do in life. At that moment, he orders someone beside him to gather the cursed beasts that had left and to maintain their strength. Next, we go to the kingdom, where the king is crowning August as the new crown prince. But suddenly, a knight bursts in, announcing that a cursed beast army is approaching. Fear spreads through everyone present. But August speaks loudly, assuring them he can handle the situation. He tells the people that there are specialized teams to fight the cursed beasts, trained under Shin, the grandson of the two heroes and the demon slayer. Shin then gives a motivational speech to calm the crowd, telling them not to fear and that nothing can harm them. The crowd cheers for Shin, full of excitement. Shin names his team the Ultimate Sorcerers. Then, in a dramatic move, he uses flight magic on all his friends, allowing them to soar in the sky. When the crowd sees this, they get even more excited, confident that they're under the protection of these sorcerers. We then see the cursed beast army approaching the castle. The people and guards atop the castle walls notice that the army is vast and drawing near. The commander orders them to take their positions and prepare for defense, sending one soldier to send an SOS to the kingdom of Earlside immediately. But reinforcements will take some time to arrive. The commander tells the soldiers to guard the wall with everything they've got, and not let any creature inside to harm the civilians. They activate the magical tools to protect the wall from the cursed beast's attacks. Next, we see Shin flying with his friends, talking to OG, upset that when asked to name the group, he wasn't prepared and came up with a silly name. He's frustrated because that silly name is now spread throughout the kingdom. One of his friends tells him they're nearing the border and that, if they had traveled by carriage, the journey would have taken them days, but they've only taken a few hours. Maria, one of his friends, is nervous about facing the cursed beast. But Shin reassures her, saying, "Don't worry, you're much stronger than those beasts now." He then addresses Cicely, telling her to focus on healing the injured. He instructs the rest of his friends to stop the cursed beasts with all their might. Inside the kingdom of Swede, a woman is carrying a child, running in fear from the cursed beasts chasing her. We see a group of cursed beasts running after her, trying to strike her with their monstrous strength. She tries to escape, but they surround her. The girl with her is terrified and begins to cry. The woman begs them to stop and leave them alone, but they don't listen, ready to kill her. At that moment, Shin and one of his friends intervene, knocking one of the beasts back 4 meters. The beast's friend shouts, "Do you know what you've done? I won't let you get away with this." He draws his weapon, saying, "Don't think a mere human like you can do anything to us, the cursed beasts." He's about to use his magic to attack Shin, but when he sees Shin gathering immense power, he's overwhelmed, and Shin finishes him off. Shin mocks the cursed beast, saying, "Now you know what it feels like to be defeated by a mere human." He then asks the woman and child if they're okay and if they need help. They assure him they're fine and ask who he is and what they're doing there. He tells them they're a support force from the Kingdom of Earlside and reassures them they can leave now without anyone stopping them. After they leave, Shin sees the destruction in the city and becomes very angry at those responsible for it. We then find August standing on a high place, addressing the citizens of the Sweet Kingdom. He says, "I am the Crown Prince of the Arlshade Kingdom, and my name is Prince August." He declares, "Today, we have gained the power needed to come and protect you. We've arrived in this land, so don't worry. You can feel safe now. We will cooperate with your royal guards and drive the cursed monsters out of the city." Then, he directs his words to the forbidden monsters, saying, "As for you, your situation is dire, for we have the demon deterrent, the hero Shin, on our side." Hearing this, the people become very excited and cling to hope. At this point, we see King Sweet watching August with pride, glad that reinforcements have arrived. Next, we see Shin assigning tasks to his friends. He asks Cicely to go and rescue the injured in the city. She agrees and says, "Don't worry, I'll save as many as I can." Before leaving, she tells him, "You take care too." Meanwhile, one of the cursed monsters is observing Shin and wonders about the extent of his power. We then see 2 of Shin's friends heading to fight one of the cursed monsters. The monster mocks them, saying, "I didn't know I'd be fighting a bunch of kids." The girl gets very angry and wants to attack him, but her friend Lynn stops her at the last moment, reminding her that she can't handle situations when she's upset and that they're facing a cursed monster. The girl realizes her mistake and says, "Okay, I'll fight properly from now on," but Lynn tells her, "Fight who? I've already taken him down. I managed to mix the sand with water and finished him off quickly." At that moment, they hear the sudden scream of a knight. When they go to check, they find one of the cursed monsters torturing a knight. But the 2 girls quickly intervene and manage to take down the monster swiftly. Then 2 of the kids head to confront more cursed monsters and also defeat them easily. We then see some demons heading toward the hospital where Cicely is treating the wounded, intending to kill everyone there. But Shin had already anticipated this and ordered 2 of his friends to guard the hospital with all their strength. They manage to defeat the demons easily as well. Meanwhile, Shin is relentless, holding the cursed monsters at bay, killing them all without letting any escape. None of them can do anything against him. The cursed monster observing Shin is shocked by his immense power and has no idea how to deal with him. None of them can even fight him, thanks to Shin's vast magical energy. We then cut to August and Maria, who are fighting one of the demon judges. They try to get any information from him, but he gives them nothing. Maria attempts to attack him quickly, but it's of no use. The cursed monster counterattacks Maria, but her shield manages to protect her. At this point, Maria gets angry and strikes with all her might, but the monster dodges her attack. August looks at Maria and they silently agree to attack him together. They begin launching coordinated attacks, breaking the magical barrier around him. Just as the monster is about to speak, he finds his heart pierced from behind, unable to do anything. At this point, King Sweet feels a bit relieved and says, "It looks like the battle is nearing its end, and we've won." We then see Zest watching the battle from afar and saying, "It seems like I need to reconsider things after witnessing Shin's power." Zest decides to gather all the cursed monsters and retreat, but Mira doesn't share the same decision. She wants to fight Shin. Suddenly, she melts the gate in front of her and pushes it aside, declaring, "Let's see what you humans can do against me." We then return to Cicely, who is treating the injured in the war. There are many of them, but she manages to heal them all. Suddenly, a strange woman approaches her, begging her to heal her husband quickly. When she arrives, Cicely finds the woman's husband bleeding profusely and in a very bad condition. The woman pleads with Cicely to save him, saying she'll do anything to keep him alive. Of course, Cicely agrees to treat the man and doesn't leave him. At the same time, Shin is shocked by Myra's magical strength, and one of the knights comments that she is on a completely different level than anyone else on the battlefield. Mira prepares to attack them again, but just in time, the 2 young girls arrive and manage to block her strike. They shout at the soldiers behind them, telling them to leave now or else they'll only be a burden. They continue to fight each other, launching several magical attacks, so much so that Alice knocks down the building in front of her with her magical power. But before she can continue her attack, Mira strikes her from behind, though Alice manages to heal herself. However, Mira intervenes again, defeating Alice and using her as a shield so that Lin can't attack her. Mira then mocks them, saying their fighting style is very weak. Meanwhile, the monster that was observing Shin notices reinforcements have arrived and wonders if that is Lord Zest. He realizes that things are now in their favor and orders all the cursed monsters to retreat immediately. When he hears a group of monsters, they get a bit annoyed and ask, "Do you really need to review this?" Before one of them can finish his sentence, he gets attacked and killed, and the one who did it is Shin. The rest of the group tries to escape from Shin and runs out of the city as fast as they can. But Shin is determined and attacks them even while they're running, managing to take down most of them. However, a small number manages to escape. As he's about to finish them off, he notices a strong attack inside the city and realizes he needs to go there immediately. At that moment, Mira still has Ellis trapped, and two of their friends try to help them after watching from a distance. When they decide to intervene, Mira easily defeats them. She's about to finish them all off, but before she does anything, she sees Shin standing in front of her, ordering her to stop immediately. When Shin sees his friends on the ground injured, he gets very angry and wants to kill Mira. At that moment, Lin wakes up from her coma and warns Shin, "Be careful, this girl is not a novice in using magic." He reassures Lin, saying, "Don't worry, I'm not a novice either," and then tells Yuri to take care of the others. He then starts attacking Mira, and it's clear from the start that Shin has the upper hand in the fight. Mira realizes this. She tries to find any opportunity to exploit and eventually sees some of Shin's friends trying to help him. She takes advantage of this, attacks them all at once, and gets them out of her way so she can escape. But Shin isn't willing to let her run away after everything she's done, so he uses his enhancement magic to chase after her. Mira, meanwhile, wants to blow up the place, and when Shin notices this, he orders one of his friends to create a magical barrier to protect the others. After the attack ends, everyone is fine, but Mira manages to escape in the end. After everything is over, they discuss Mira, saying she's really strong and possibly a former soldier or even a hunter. They wonder what the purpose of the attack was in the first place. They then agree to start looking for the cursed monsters, and August tells them to also be careful and not put themselves in dangerous situations. Next, we go to the group that managed to escape from the cursed monsters, including the boy who was watching Shin. He talks with Mira and learns from her that Zeist wanted her to create an opportunity for him. The cursed monster is upset because Shin and his friends had an unexpected amount of power, and they lost many soldiers in that battle. At that moment, we notice that Strom was watching everything from above, seeing everything from the start. Then Shin and August go to the place where the injured are. We then see Cicely trying to heal that woman's husband, but it's clear she's struggling and can't do it despite trying her hardest. When she realizes there's nothing she can do, she starts crying and apologizes to the woman, saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do anything for him, and healing magic can't cure everything." At that moment, Shin appears and tells her, "You won't be able to help him, Cicely, let me handle it." When Shin starts to heal the man, he's surprised that the man is still alive thanks to Cicely's healing magic. After a while, he manages to heal all the man's wounds, and his breathing stabilizes. When the man's wife hears this news, she is overjoyed and thanks Shin for what he did for her husband. After some time, Shin and his group go to the King of Sweden and sit together for a while. August asks the king, "There's something I don't understand about this cursed monsters attack. One of the things is that some of the cursed monsters were present in the Empire's attack, but then weren't there immediately after." August feels that this attack was a distraction, but there were no other attacks anywhere else. He then tells the king he wants to form an alliance between the two countries and create a unified fighting front. The king agrees and says, "Alright, we will discuss this further." Shin and his friends then return to their kingdom and receive a warm welcome from the people and the guards. August then talks to his father and tells him he has a report about the incident he needs to share. After they sit in the main room, the king understands that Sweden accepted the offer. August asks his father to be their special envoy to other countries, saying, "I'm a prince and a member of the Allied Desert, so it will be easy for me to sit at the negotiation table." His father agrees, of course. Shin then talks to his grandparents, and they tell him he also needs to go with them to see the world freely. We then go to the Monster Kingdom, where Strom is talking to Zeist and the rest of his allies, saying, "Didn't I warn you before to leave Shin alone?" They apologize for what they did, admitting they did a terrible job. He responds, "Why are you apologizing? I wanted you to do this from the start." We then see the king bidding farewell to August and Shin as they also say goodbye to their grandparents. After they finish their goodbyes, August tells Shin it's time to go. Shin uses his flying magic and takes them into the sky immediately.